Welcome in, or welcome back, to another episode of You Are the One You Seek. I am your host, David, and of course, as per usual lately, I am reading from the Jeshua channelings. So today's chapter is Illness and Health. I'm sure that none of you can relate to that because we're all healthy and happy and well-adjusted and disease-free, right? Yeah. I can definitely relate to this one. You know, I'm not special or unique. Obviously, we all have many different mountains to climb with our health and well-being. And it's been hard for me to try and figure out, like, why do I have this particular thing? You know, why do I have these headaches, for example, that have been going for something like 15 plus years of just relentlessly terrible headaches that are night and day an issue. And I've gone to specialists and tried to do whatever I can to figure out what the problem is without spending all of my life savings, and haven't gotten anywhere. I just take an absurd amount of Tylenol and Advil to deal with it. But, you know, there was a part of me that felt like maybe this is something I'm doing wrong. Maybe this is tied to some deeper issue, and whatever that is, I still haven't figured it out because the headaches persist. I think it largely has to do just with living life in a modern, stressful, hectic society. I feel like I'm in contact a lot more with my soul energy, which is free and expansive and wants to just experience life. But then I look at the reality of the earth plane and all of the difficulties and red tape and bureaucracy, and it just stresses me out and makes me tense up. And I think that's really where the headaches kind of come from. It's just this tensing up and feeling constricted and restrained because, yeah, I kind of should feel that way. I'm a infinite soul, infinite spirit, experiencing this really limited form. It should kind of feel restrictive and weird. So obviously not everyone has headaches like I do. So everything, manifests a little differently. And there could be some deeper cause that I haven't gotten to yet. I definitely have put a lot of energy towards, receiving healing for it. But in the meantime, I read the words of this chapter, and I'm not going to give away the contents of the chapter up front, but there's some really profound words from Jeshua about just the way we hold on in a tense way to our bodies and to the stress and fear over our health and over illnesses and disease. And I recognize that some of the way this could come across initially is really pseudoscience-y, like, oh, illnesses and disease is just a part of our mind. It's a part of this concept that we're separate, and it's all born out of, some kind of spiritual disconnect. And that can be really, I think, upsetting to say that to somebody who's really going through some really terrible stuff and just kind of throw out there like, hey, well, this is a spiritual problem, bud. You just got to get right with God and you'll be fine, Some really damaging stuff can kind of come out of being casual and not understanding, I think, what the meaning is behind this idea that, spiritual suffering causes dis-ease, and that dis-ease will manifest itself in our physical bodies. But Jeshua also distinguishes between, illnesses that are born out of a spiritual thing and also chronic diseases and even stuff that we came here to experience. I mean, we literally might have made a soul plan to come here and experience a particular disabling disease to have whatever perspectives and experiences that can come through that would have been impossible without it. Now, again, that sounds insane. Who would choose that, right? But we come here to choose a buffet of wild, dynamic, deep, painful, beautiful experiences. It's all give and take. It's all polarities. But, thank sunny, sweet Jesus that it's finally coming to a head here, that we're at a point in history where it's not going to be this constant roller coaster of beauty and bullshit, that we actually reach a point of balance, of harmony, of love, filling us to a point where we're no longer controlled, bothered, or just beaten down by all of the wild energy that's available here. So Christ consciousness is coming back into our hearts, into our awareness, and that is what the return of the Christ is. It's within each of us. It's not the return of the physical soul who incarnated here as Jeshua. It's the return of the understanding of who we are and our power within the Christ energy. So, yeah, without, again, sermonizing too much here and giving my own take, let's get right into the reading of Illness and Health. Illness and Health. Dear friends, I welcome you warm-heartedly and send you all my love. I love you all so dearly. My love for you is not only universal in nature, but it also has a personal touch, for I have known many of you when I was here on earth among you. I am Jeshua. I have lived on earth as Jesus, and I have been among people to testify to the love which is available to all of us, from the source that lies within ourselves. Now the time has come for you to take over the torch. You are the seeds that blossom today. This is the meaning of the rebirth of Christ. I, the one man who once lived on earth, am not the one who was bound to return. Instead, the universal power of the Christ energy is now being birthed within you. I am so pleased to support you in this process by being with you in this way. At the beginning of this session, Pamela and Garrett asked me which subjects I would like to address, and I told them, it does not matter, I just want to be with them. I simply want to touch you with my energy and to remind you of your own greatness. In extending my energy to you, my sole purpose is that you feel the flame of clarity within, the flame of your truth. That is the essence of the Christ energy. I have been an earlier carrier of this flame, but now it is time for you to carry on the torch. It is important to acknowledge who you are on the inside. You carry this torch with you, and you must realize that the time has come to show it to the world, for the world is waiting for it. This is a time of transformation, a time of great changes which show many faces, both dark and light. The time is ready for people who have a wider view, who can watch all manifestations of dark and light from a calm and peaceful state of mind, and who are able to be present in love, without judgment. Today I will talk about illness and health. But remember, basically it is my concern to let you feel that I am here, to let you feel that you are equal to me and that I am equal to you. We are one. We are carriers of a particular light energy, and we have been working for a long time, during many lifetimes, to ground this energy and anchor it to the earth. That is your job. That is your mission. The time has come to let go of me as someone you look up to. I am a brother and a friend to you, not a master you should follow. I want to surround you with the energies of love and truth. That is all I can do. Now it is your turn to stand up for yourself and to let the light of your torches shine. Illness and health. This is a subject that comes up in the lives of all people sooner or later. First, I would like to say something about what illness actually is. All diseases have a spiritual origin. I will explain this by drawing a distinction among the different bodies you have. In addition to the physical body visible to all of you, you also possess an emotional body, a mental body, and something you may call a spiritual body. Illness mainly starts in the emotional body. It is from here that certain blockages settle themselves in the physical body on the material level. Often beliefs from the mental body contribute to the development of emotional blockages and thus to the manifestation of illness. I am talking of deeply ingrained beliefs or habits of thinking. Often these are beliefs about what is right and wrong about yourself. Judgments may literally create blockages in your emotional energy system. At those places where the blockages arise, where the emotional energy is not allowed to flow freely, something of a dark energy becomes visible in the aura. This energy may settle down in the body. It need not necessarily be so, for this process takes quite some time, and there is enough opportunity to turn things into balance emotionally before a disease displays itself. Generally, your emotions tell you when your energy is not flowing, and when you turn your attention to their message and honor it, the blockage gets released. For instance, you may feel upset or angry every time you have to do a particular thing, and if you look more closely at those emotions, they will tell you that you are forcing yourself to do things that do not truly affirm who you are and who you want to be. However, if you systematically ignore your anger and force yourself to do things you truly don't feel good about, then the emotion goes underground, so to speak. It removes itself from your awareness and it expresses itself in your physical body. The repressed emotion is an energy that wants to be heard by you. When it expresses itself through the body, it will manifest as a physical complaint. Generally, a physical complaint or illness points at an emotion inside you that you are largely unaware of. The physical symptom makes it visible to you on another level, and in this way actually helps you get in touch with the blockage. In this way, physical symptoms or pain are the language of the soul. The soul longs for full communication among all of its parts. The soul feels happy when there is a free flow of energy and a continuous renewal of all aspects of itself. Blockages prevent the energy from flowing freely, and that depresses the soul. Illness, thus, has the function of an indicator. It shows you where you are in need of healing. Although illness seems to be negative in the sense that you are bothered by all kinds of symptoms and pains, the key is to interpret illness as a message or a signpost. In doing so, it becomes easier to cooperate with the disease instead of resisting it. The soul has many ways to communicate to you. The soul's favorite way is to speak to you through your intuition, quiet feeling tones, hunches, soft whispers of the heart. If it cannot reach you in that way, you will be alerted by your emotions. The emotions speak a louder language. They clearly show you that you have to look within and find out what is igniting that emotional response. Whenever you are strongly affected emotionally, you need to find out why and what it means to you. If you become silent and listen carefully, the soul will tell you. If you resist or deny your emotions, the soul will speak to you through your body. The body is an intelligent being, highly responsive to not just the material things like food and liquids that you take in, but the emotions, feelings, and thoughts you have. The body is meant to be a communicator. It is not a mere vessel to dwell in. It has an intelligent function to play in helping the soul express and know itself in matter. How can you learn to understand the language of your soul if it is expressed through the body as an illness? At the moment the disease manifests itself, it may not be clear what message is conveyed by it to you. In fact, you have denied the emotion it represents consistently for a long time, so it is by definition not obvious what your illness has to tell you. Understanding the spiritual meaning of the illness is a process. It is a quest, an inner journey on which you gradually restore the communication process. To embark upon this journey, you first have to accept your illness. The initial reaction to illness is often one of denial or resistance. You would prefer the disease to disappear as soon as possible because it frightens you. You are scared of failure, decline, imperfection, and ultimately death. The panic that seizes you when you are confronted with physical failure or illness prevents you from opening up to a broader perspective on illness. You could consider illness in another light. You might experience it as a messenger of change, as an invitation to return to something precious that you have lost. To comprehend and cooperate with the signpost function of illness, it is very important to say yes to the symptoms and pains which display themselves in your body. In saying yes, in accepting the state of your physical body, and in being willing to listen to the language of your soul through it, you have actually solved half the problem. The real problem is not the disease itself, but that which it represents, the underlying blockages. The disease buttonholes you, so to speak, and forces you to look at the underlying blockage. In turning to the disease and saying yes with your heart and soul, you will have already solved part of the blockage without even knowing precisely what the disease wants to tell you. Part of the communication is being restored just by your willingness, your patience and determination to take this inner journey upon you. However, to say yes and embrace the illness is not easy for you. You may find yourself resisting it, being angry or desperate about it, and therefore not listening to what the malfunction is already telling you. Frequently, you get specific clues. For instance, the body's inabilities indicate that you must let go of certain obligations, spend more quiet time by yourself, be less active and more attentive to your needs. Although you may not yet know how to interpret your physical situation from a spiritual level, quite often the behavior that the ailment forces upon you is a big clue. By limiting yourself in certain areas, it is putting a spotlight on things that were in the dark before. How is it with your ability to be patient and gentle with yourself? Can you really take good care of your physical and emotional needs? Illness always brings up these questions, and to confront and accept the emotions they arouse is part of the healing process. To really start the healing process, you have to say yes to it all: the pain, the discomfort, the anxiety, the insecurity, and the anger. You have to look it in the eye, be friendly with it, and reach out your hands to it. It is coming to you for healing. It is not something you have to get out of the way as fast as possible. It is not a coincidence that it has entered your life now. If you ignore your body's language and you keep resisting the disease, it is very difficult to get through to the spiritual essence and meaning of the disease. There is too much anger and fear surrounding it. You only achieve true inner freedom in coming face to face with your disease, with your pain and discomfort, and also with your feelings of fear and disgust. Embrace them and then ask them quietly with an open consciousness, "What do you want to tell me?" In your society, it is not self-evident to be intimate with your own body. Talking to your body like a being that deserves love and respect is not considered to be natural. You are dished up many idealized images in your society about what your body should look like, what fitness and health imply, and what you should or should not eat and drink. There are all kinds of rules and standards about what a long and healthy life is like. But all these idealized pictures bear no relationship to the path of the soul. The path of the soul is highly individual. Therefore, to find the truth about any illness, ailment, or distress that you suffer in your body, you need to tune into yourself in a very intimate way, leaving behind all these general, often artificial standards and rules. You are asked to release all of these outside standards and to search for your own truth deep within. This is a great challenge to you, for the fear and panic that seize you in the case of an illness makes you look too quickly to authorities outside yourself. You reach out to external authorities for advice and comfort. This may be a medical doctor or an expert in alternative treatment. Basically, it makes no difference. The key is that out of fear, you tend to give up your own responsibility and partially hand it over to somebody else. Of course, there is nothing wrong with listening to an expert's advice, and quite often this is a very sensible thing to do. But always, you need to take this knowledge inside you and weigh it in your own heart. Feel whether the advice resonates with you or not. Only you are the true creator of your life, the master of your own body. Only you yourself know what is best for your own body. In the deepest sense of the word, you are the creator of your own body. Since illness represents a stuck emotion that is partly beyond the scope of your consciousness, it is not always easy to understand what the disease or the symptom represents. Sometimes it seems very hard to find out what the soul is trying to tell you by a specific disease. At this point, you need to go inside and examine yourself thoroughly, in the sense of gradually becoming aware of the kind of energy that manifests itself in the disease and what it is trying to tell you. Regaining intimacy with your own body requires practice. It is not self-evident. Do not give up on it too easily. When you are dealing with persistent complaints, try to examine them once again. Take a moment to relax yourself and then travel with a neutral awareness to the places in your body where the illness is expressing itself. Ask the pain or the disease to take the shape of a living being so that you can talk to it. Ask it to appear as an animal, a child, or a human being, or ask it to appear as a guide, in whatever shape. Use your imagination. The imagination is a precious instrument to discover the deepest stirrings of your soul. If you do so, and when you notice that your body answers with images or feelings, you will experience joy. You will feel happiness about the regained intimacy. The body speaks to you, and its role as a communicator is restored. This is a breakthrough. As soon as you realize that you are able to know your body from the inside, and that you are the only one who can do this for yourself, you will feel more confident. This self-confidence makes it easier for you to feel what the disease is trying to tell you. It prevents you from brushing aside the answers that you receive from your inner self because they do not fit in with general ideas from the outside world. Intimacy with the body is very precious in all circumstances, but particularly when the body is ill or in distress. The way to let your body talk is love. You will not encourage communication with your body if you try to remove the disease by ardently repeating healing affirmations or visualizations to yourself. That still is a form of struggle or resistance. The key is that you come to understand the meaning of the sick parts of your body. If you understand this, things will be transformed and emotional blocks can be removed. This is how the healing process works. Not fighting the disease one way or another, but accepting it like a friend who wants to show you the right direction. This is difficult to understand, for illness frightens and distresses you. However, accepting and understanding your illness is the only way to true healing. Illness wants to take you back home. Chronic and terminal illness. The purpose of illness is to obtain a better and deeper understanding of yourself. Once you do this and go along with the inner healing process, physical recovery is often the result. However, it does not always work this way. Some diseases do not disappear even when it seems you have gone down to the root of the underlying emotional blockage. This is the case with chronic diseases. In the case of a chronic disease, there are persistent physical problems that keep reoccurring. Especially during vulnerable periods in which you more or less lose touch with your inner self, the symptoms recur, sometimes even in an increasing degree. This can be quite demoralizing. Therefore, it is important to consider the disease from a broader perspective. People with a chronic disease undertake quite an arduous task. On the soul level, they have agreed to confront the fears that come up in the context of their illness and to confront idealized pictures of how someone should perform in life. To take up this challenge shows great courage. It often happens that a soul chooses a chronic disease to work out a specific issue in a highly focused way. The disease throws you back on particular emotions each time. There is an emotional pattern that accompanies the illness. To deal with these emotions time and again is quite a heavy task, but it bears many fruits for the soul. Quite often those lives have a great profundity and an inner richness that is not always noticeable to others. Therefore, it is not supportive to constantly strive or hope for an improvement of the medical condition. The fact is that the disease often proceeds in a spiral movement, helping you grow on the inner level in circular movements upwards, although apparently you relapse into the same physical symptoms each time. On the spiritual level, you do not fall back, but you reach ever greater depths in dealing with emotions that possibly have been overlooked by you in the past, even in past lives. This also applies to hereditary or congenital physical defects. In this respect, you sometimes speak of karma, but I am careful with this concept, as you have a tendency to associate karma with crime and punishment. This is not how it works. The soul has the sincere desire to know itself to the fullest and to be free. This is its deepest desire. Starting from this ardent wish, the soul sometimes undertakes ailments, diseases, and physical defects which help it reach its aim. It is certainly not a question of paying off your debts. It is a deep intent to be set free, and sometimes the best way to get there is to experience extremely difficult circumstances within your own body. For this intention, we can only have the greatest respect, especially in your society where inhuman ideal images are cherished as to how to be functional, useful, beautiful, and successful. These idealistic ideas make it even more difficult to live your life with a handicap and to nevertheless experience it as meaningful and joyful. Finally, I want to say something about incurable terminal diseases. Sometimes it will be obvious that someone will not survive a disease anymore. The body gradually succumbs to the disease. The earthly frame does not persist. At that moment, what does the soul that finds itself within the body do? As long as you keep resisting the disease, you cannot get in touch with your soul and your inner knowing that tells you that it is time to say goodbye. Sometimes you sense in advance that you have to leave, but the idea strikes you with such horror and sorrow that you keep on fighting. You are eager to try another treatment or wait for that new medicine to be launched. This is quite understandable, and I certainly do not want to condemn this attitude, but you are hurting yourself in a terrible way. If you let go and allow death to come closer, you will notice that death is not an opponent, but instead is a friend. Death releases you from the struggle. If you go along with what death wants to tell you, you will pass through several stages before the actual process of dying takes place. These stages have to do with a gradual release of all earthly things, of your beloved, of your earthly surroundings, of your senses with which you observe everything around you. This is a beautiful, natural process. It would be a pity to overshadow this process by an attitude of battle in which you try to hold on to life at any expense. Often by then, the body has already become so fragile that life is not worth living anymore. Let it go. Death is a liberator who is there to serve you. Death is not your enemy. Death brings you new life. When you are with someone who is incurably ill, and when you feel that that person knows that they are going to die, try to talk about it softly and carefully. It is a relief to the person who is passing over. The dearest and most precious thing you can do for a dying person is to sit next to them and hold their hand. There is nothing else you need to know or to be able to do in accompanying a dying person. Terminal care is very important in your society. One day, all of you will face this within your own family or your circle of friends. Simply be present with a dying person and feel the journey that is arriving. Feel the mighty, powerful moment in which the soul leaves the body and returns to the other realms, to its home. Do not consider a disease that leads to death as an enemy who you will lose to in the end. It is not a battle. Quite frequently, death comes to release you from even more pain and misery. You are certainly not a loser. You will simply continue your path in another way. Sometimes there are particular issues you would have liked to live through or overcome during this life, and these issues cannot be finished. This may distress you, and not just you, but those who stay behind as well. Nevertheless, I ask you to leave this in peace, for there is a deeper wisdom at work that is guiding you and will bring you and your loved ones together in new and better circumstances. One day you will be together again and will celebrate life. Today, my biggest plea with regard to illness is to really embrace your illness. Surround the illness with love and awareness, and let it lead you into a deeper understanding of yourself. Entrust yourself to the illness and allow yourself to enter into a more profound communication with yourself. Surrender does not mean to be passive or bitter about your illness, but to cooperate with it in an active way, like a friend. I embrace you with all my love, and I ask you to feel my presence today, the presence of the Christ energy. Feel the love available to you all in sickness and in health. There is so much love everywhere around you, and you can feel it as soon as you let go of your judgments. You have so many judgments about what you do and don't deserve, about what you are doing right and what you are doing wrong, about all the things you still have to do and achieve. Let it go. Love is present here and now for all of you. End of chapter. All right. Thank you so much again for listening to another reading from the Jeshua Channelings. Now you can find the Jeshua Channelings as well as other books and channelings from Pamela and Garrett at www.jeshua.net. There's a newsletter and all kinds of other great resources and information there. I know a lot of you who are listening are coming from Pamela's newsletter, so thank you for listening, and thank you for bearing with me on my particular perspective and views on these channelings. Now, of course, these views are entirely my own. They don't represent Pamela or Garrett. The only thing that represents their work is the actual book. That being said, I have been in contact with them for several months, and it's been really enlightening to speak with them. And, I'm currently reading her newest book, which is The Forbidden Male Speaks, and it's really a companion piece to The Forbidden Female Speaks. So The Forbidden Female Speaks was channeled with Mary Magdalene, and The Forbidden Male Speaks is channeled with Jeshua. So just really expand so much more on some of the previous chapters I've read, male and female energy, sexuality and spirituality, even dealing with emotions. There's a lot of it that is so well articulated in more depth in those books. So I highly recommend those. And yeah, as far as today's episode, I know this is something that many of us are dealing with the ramifications of. So, there's studies even coming out now saying that people are getting a lot more debilitating diseases and cancers and things like that earlier in life than previous generations. And, so much of that is over-industrialization and really just trains going off the rails with health standards and, food additives and preservatives, and just a lot of the ways that we deal with food in our world is contaminated with a lot of man-made greed and shortcuts, and that has a detrimental impact on our health. But I love that Jeshua is telling us to look at death as a liberator and a friend, and not something to be terrified of, but actually is a release. And that there's no award for suffering, for decades in this body. Like trying to make it, to 100 years old and having a terrible quality of life broken down in a nursing home or whatever is not really something that has ever been prescribed, I think, beyond the human mind. It's because of our fear of death. It's because of our fear of the unknown, our centuries-long fears of judgment and condemnation and hell that keep us all so tethered to this life and this experience and this terrible fear of leaving behind our responsibilities. But there is no way you can actually abandon your family or your friends or the things that you love. You're just moving into a different dimension of understanding. But you can reincarnate. You can do those things again. You can make new family and friends. It's just people you already know. It's souls you've already communicated and communed with outside of the physical realms. So we're never really apart from each other. We're just in this, temporary experience of feeling like we're separate, feeling like we're apart, feeling like we can be alone and lose something. But we can't lose anything. Not one single thing. So, we can lose our attachment to ego. That's a valuable thing to lose because that's what keeps us stuck here and tethered to earth. It's something I've actually heard about too, with this idea of souls having a hard time recognizing they're dead or leaving the earth plane. And a lot of that is, from what I understood, was that it's all the people in their lives who are still in grief and trying to keep them here somehow. And that energy can actually kind of keep a soul stuck for a little while. Now, I've also heard some channelings recently about, can your soul really get trapped or stuck? And that was a pretty illuminating one. It was actually from Cryon. And Lee Carroll was channeling Cryon. I've just kind of come across his stuff, and so I don't know much about him, but I really liked the messages I've heard so far. But Cryon was basically saying how, we can't get stuck here. That souls can't get trapped in a loop or doomed to a prison planet, that we choose everything. We are divine, we are sovereign. Every experience is our own choosing. And yeah, there's a lot of dynamic experiences to be had, some that we maybe didn't plan exactly, but we're not going to get stuck in some no man's land or a hell or whatever and not be able to escape. But there may be something at play where we agree to this situation where, when our physical body dies on earth and maybe our family is not able to let go easily, that we do hang around for a while. Maybe it's even to comfort them with our presence more directly. I don't really know exactly how any of that works. So, and it kind of getting away from the topic of illness and health a little bit, but it is to me really refreshing to, again, have these totally new perspectives about stuff that was so ingrained at an early age, that this is how it is. And, death is something to be feared because if you're not right with God, well, it's eternity in torment, and the stakes are so damn high that's why there's so much pressure and tension and anguish and anxiety within religious systems, because no one really feels quite safe. Everyone's concerned that maybe they're one of the ones who didn't get it right, even if they're doing all the correct things on an outward level. So what a relief to know that we don't need to hang on to these bodies. We don't need to complete all of these specific tasks. We don't have to do all these certain practices to heal ourselves. We just need to surround our illness, our discomfort with love and awareness. And, that can sound really trite, like, oh, great, but I don't want to suffer, so what do I do? Well, let's at least start with that, right? Maybe that's worth a try, just to do something different, to sit with it for a minute and just pour love into it and say, you know what? This pain, this illness, whatever it is, it's not a judgment on me. It's an experience I chose. And I can choose to see where there's value in it. I can ask what this disease is trying to tell me. And I can ask my guides, how do I put love into this and awareness, but not hold on to it in a tense and tight way? And it's hard. I'm not trying to sit here and act like any of this is easy or the spiritual path, quote unquote, is a cakewalk. It's very difficult because we're in a situation where we're meant to kind of experience a lot of differences from our true nature. So it doesn't feel natural, intuitive, or reasonable to a lot of us. And there are some who are more grounded in this experience and who it does feel kind of natural to. That might be getting into deeper stuff with earth souls and all that, but it is pretty wild to think about the diversity of life and soul experiences and realities that we can create and live in. But as for me, I'm all good with like a reality where illness and disease is kind of just not really a thing anymore. And that's what I think a lot of people believe we're moving into, that part of these changes that are happening here on Earth and all of the tension and war is all about to come to a head and then break down and birth this beautiful new reality where our bodies are essentially upgraded and we're no longer able to be burdened with karmic issues like disease, pain, and chronic illness. And that we'll actually be able to heal our bodies on our own. And so it's not going to be a situation where we're working these jobs that are tied to healthcare so that we can survive, but we're miserable and barely getting by. Like, life is going to be something we thrive in. I think part of that is we don't have to eat. You know, we get these upgraded bodies, and I certainly don't see how we continue the food chain as it is in an upgraded consciousness, because that requires us to continue to kill something to survive for ourselves, whether it's plants or animals. And so I personally think we're going to evolve into these bodies that are energized by, I don't know, the sun, radiation, whatever it is. And I can't prove any of this, but it just seems intuitively right to me that we don't have to deal with, you know, the food chain and spending all of our energy on just survival. That we'll be able to thrive and create and explore and expand, and to get in touch with that childlike, creative joy that we are from, and that is our real nature. You know, it feels immature to look at ourselves as playful children. We just kind of think, well, that's great for its time, but come on, we're adults now, let's be serious. And I heard a channeling of Jeshua through JM, I'm pretty sure, where he said, there is no seriousness in the kingdom of heaven. There is no need for seriousness in our true home, because nothing is serious. You know, there's no furrowed brows where love is the only dominant thing. So when we're back home, we don't even have to worry about, you know, it's again why I think Jeshua talks about how meditations and specific practices are not really necessary, because they kind of require this feeling of, I need to be serious now. I need to be spiritual. I need to close my eyes and bow my head and make sure God knows I'm taking this seriously. And I really don't think that's what we're meant to be kind of involved with, that energy. I think that's fine if you feel that approach is necessary for you, but I believe we're kind of meant to be more playful, like children, and to create and just have this innocence about us. But, you know, kind of hard to do right now because of obvious reasons. So, but, you know, hang in there, people. We're going we're going towards the right direction of expansion, joy, and love. We just have to get over this hill first. And right now this hill feels very tall and full of booby traps and explosions and trouble. But we have to trust ourselves that we have the divinity within us to move past this weird period of kind of decision, and that we can trust that if our hearts are set on love and a new future of expansive creativeness without all of the hang-ups of ego and karma, then we'll create that. So yeah, keep your vibes high. Find new ways to love and forgive yourself. Recognize that inside of you are all of the answers. that you don't need all of these experts and gurus and guides to move you towards what you need for your life. And yeah, that's my message. That's what I preach, is self-love, self-actualization, self-forgiveness. And I guess, I preach it kind of selfishly because it's what's worked for me. It's what's been vital to me. But I also hear that resonant within Yeshua's channelings, within the Law of One, within Cryon's channelings, within all these different, Arcturian councils. And there's so many channelings out there, angels and guides, all saying the same thing, that once we remember who we are and the just limitless, expansive love of who we are, everything changes. Our reality changes. We manifest a new world. We just have to start waking up. And we're doing that very quickly. So thank you for being a part of that awakening. And thank you for choosing to come here and do this with me and with others. It really is an amazing adventure that's going to be so friggin' cool when we get to see the payoff and all of the steps that it took and the tapestry we've weaved through these experiences. So anyway, I hope that this was an encouragement to you. If things have been rough lately, things are pretty rough on a world stage, and I think a lot of us are feeling fear and a little despair about what's going to happen. But if you kind of let go of the need to find safety and assurance here and trust that even if your body dies, your soul expands. Not only does it not diminish in any way, it actually expands. And all of the experiences you had here make your soul's journey even richer, and the things that you can create now even more vast and varied. So yeah, keep your vibes high, keep loving and forgiving each other, loving and forgiving yourself first. And as usual, I hope that you go in love and light, and namaste.